Hello, and welcome to another edition of Tech Tuesday presented by Delta Media Group, where we've been getting a lot of snow around here lately. And we were trying to find Will Smith, and we couldn't figure out how to do it. And then it occurred to us, you just follow the Fresh Prince. I'm smiling. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. Okay, so today we are going to take a look at the updates we have recently made to the pipeline interface, or the sales pipeline interface, that you can typically find on the dashboard page when you first log into the DeltaNet. So now you can set a custom login page if you want. So you might not log into this page directly, but in most cases, and you can see it's trying to log me out here, can fix that. In most cases, when you log in, it'll take you directly to this page. If not, you can generally click on Dashboard up here at the top, and that will load up your dashboard page. Now this page is also customizable, so there's a chance that you'll have different tiles up here, or that depending on your company, the layout of this page could be a little bit different. But if you do have the transaction interface or the transaction pipeline interface turned on, you'll be able to find that section on this page. Now in my case, you can see I have the transaction pipeline section right here, so right up toward the top. And what this allows me to do is keep track of all the transactions attached to my customers and what phase of the sales pipeline they're in. So I won't get too deep into the weeds with this. We'll just kind of take a look at the high level, and then you'll be able to get in there and work with it as you'd like to, and kind of learn it that way. I'm doing my best not to get not to get too technical with any of these explanations. So what this allows you to do is attach a transaction or an opportunity to a customer, and then you can place that transaction or opportunity in a pipeline phase, and then it will show up here with the amount of that transaction, and it'll add all those up, and then you can see how much money you have or how many transactions you have in every phase of the pipeline. So it's kind of neat that way. Now the other thing it will do is if you do have a transaction integration turned on, so if your company has an integration with a transaction management platform turned on, the system can pull in your transactions automatically and automatically drop them into the right phase so that you don't even have to enter them. Now the other nice thing is because this is transaction based, you can have a single customer that has transactions in more than one phase. So for example, if you have a buyer who is also selling and maybe an offer's been made on the home they're selling, you might have that transaction in the offer made phase, and maybe they're just still looking around for a home, and they're pre-qualified, so maybe you have them in the qualified phase, or an opportunity for them set up in the qualified phase. So we'll just run over the interface real quick here and give you an idea of exactly how this works. So first off, you have the ability at the top to look at different years. So it'll be set to this year by default, but if you do have previous transactions or transactions in previous years, you can select those and it will show you that information here, so you can kind of keep track of that here. And if you have anything dated for the next year, it can show you that stuff as well. So we'll leave it on this year. You have the ability to adjust your goals in here. So if I click on that, you can see that it gives me an income goal, so I can lay that out, a unit goal, and a volume goal as well. And then I can actually change the display so that it's based on income, unit, or volume. So you don't have to pick one. If you set up a goal for all of those, you can see views for each. And then you can also set up your kind of default commission split here. So by setting this up, that's the commission that it's going to assume took place on every transaction. So once you move it to the closed phase, it'll have a final amount on it, and it'll calculate out what your split is based on the information that's entered here. Now, for that, you do have the ability to, on an individual transaction, change that to whatever you'd like. So you'll set this up and that'll be the default, but if it varied on a specific transaction, you can pull up that transaction and put in your actual commission split there. That way it keeps your progress to goal accurate here. So I would just make those changes and click update, and that would update my goal amounts, and that really controls how these bars operate here mostly. The next thing I can do is I can click up here on add to pipeline, and this allows me to actually add a transaction or an opportunity to some phase of the pipeline. So this is typically what you'll be doing here as long as your transactions aren't coming in automatically. So what I might do is I have a new customer here, and let's say I know they're pre-qualified, so I could select pre-qualified. If I already have this customer in my database, I can click add customer and just type their name here. There we go, and you see they come up in the autocompleter. Or if I don't have them entered yet, I could click on add new customer, and that opens up this modal where I could add the customer in manually. So we'll say There we go. We'll just get something in there so we've got something to look at. And you can see I can enter all this information here. So the more I have, the more I'd want to enter here, but it doesn't really require anything else. And in this case, I don't want to go to their profile page, so I'm just going to click Save and Close. So that closes that out. The customer is now added. Now it'll show undefined until I refresh the page here. But it does have the customer added to this transaction. And now I can go down here and I can enter the information related to this opportunity. Now, because the phase is qualified, I'm only entering an opportunity amount. At this point, I don't have a closing date. I know that they're interested in buying or selling, so we'll say purchase. So in this case, we'll say they're interested in buying, so I'll leave that on purchase. I don't have a closing date in mind. I have no idea when they're going to close or if they're going to close at this point. And I know they're looking for a home in the range of, let's say, $250,000. So we'll just put that in, and I click Save, and that adds that opportunity to that customer and puts them in that pipeline phase. So the last thing before I leave this page is I do have the ability to use this merge function. Now what this will allow me to do is if I have a listing and I haven't put it in a pipeline phase or attached it to a customer yet, I can use this merge functionality for that. So whenever you get a new listing, the system will automatically create a listing record here basically with the value of that listing and just wait for me to put it in the appropriate phase and attach it to the customer. So that's what I would use merge for. You can see if I click that, it lets me search, and this is where I would put in like an address or an MLS ID to find that listing and merge it. So we'll click on Save. So that creates that, and that's another addition to my qualified phase. We'll go ahead and skip this over. We'll go back to that. But now if I go down here and I click on Qualified, you can see there's my customer in the qualified phase, and there's that price. So now at this point, if I want to make a change to this, so let's say that they've moved on to qualified and they've defined the specifics of the home that they want. So I'll click on Edit. I'll say now they've defined some specifics and save. And now I've moved them on to the next phase. And if I click on that phase, there they are. So you can see it's that simple to move them through those different phases. Now when they finally do close, I would go over here and I would say Edit. Now they found a property they want, so we'll change this to closed, and I'll just skip over a couple of phases for the sake of argument here. And you can see when I switch it to closed, it points out a couple more fields that are particularly important to a closed transaction. So now I have a date, so we'll go ahead and put that date on here. Let's say they closed on January 31st. I can show this closing date on my calendar if I want, so why not? And let's say the actual value of the home they went with was $275,900. Why not? It's their primary residence, and now it'll have me put an address in here. We'll use the ever handy 123 Main Street. Here we are. Now, also as a matter of convenience, if this is their primary residence and this is now their primary address, I can set this as their primary address on the customer record as well. So just that way I don't have to jump around to different pages and do different things. It's all right here for me. So now if I click Save, there we go. So that's now a completed transaction. If I click on Closed, you can see there it is, and it is counted toward my closed goal up here. So now as we went through this, I did mention earlier that under this Adjust Goal, you can set more than just a total amount goal. You can set GCI or volume as well, or not GCI rather. GCI is what it's set to. You can set a number of units or total volume as well. So if I click on these, you can see it changes the whole display to look at that instead. And it's all zeros because I don't have any goals set up there. So that way you can track by different items if you'd like. Now the next thing you can do, now that you've closed a transaction, is I mentioned that you can set a specific commission amount on just that. So if I click this little icon right here, this is where I would override what the commission was on this particular transaction. So instead of following the regular commission splits, there was something specific, so I could just set it here, save, commission and bonus both, and it can add those to my goal as well. Now the next piece we have here is this year-to-date report that we skipped earlier. This allows me to just quickly bring up all the closed transactions in here and even export those to a PDF so that I can just really easily pick those transactions up and produce that report. Now the next thing we can do with this transaction pipeline interface is I can create custom goals as well. So if I click on New Custom Goal, I can set a goal title, my goal, and then I can choose what I want that goal to be based on. So do I want to set a dollar amount, total units or total volume, and by dollar amount, GCI dollars or total volume dollars. So I can set that goal up however I'd like. So if I want let's say total units, I want to sell, I don't know, 25 units. Update goal. And there we go. So now I have another bar down here for my custom goal. I can make adjustments to it, or I can add to it as well. Or rather add phases to it if I'd like. So the next piece I can do here, and just as a matter of convenience, anything that I bring up here, all of these transactions, whether they're attached to customers, any that are attached to customers, I can link straight from here to that customer's profile page if I'd like as well. So this has all the transaction information. These are all kind of the individual transaction records. But if I do want to see information about this customer, I can click on their name, and that'll take me through to their profile page. And then from here, if I scroll down and take a look at their transactions and opportunities section, I can also add those transactions from here. So the idea is I will interact with the transaction pipeline interface if I'm on that page. But if I'm just loading up a customer and maybe I'm talking to the customer on the phone, for example, I can be looking at their profile page here, and I can add those opportunities right in here if they have a particular property they're interested in, or if they give me more information about what kind of price range they're looking to buy in, things like that. And then from here I can even modify these. So let's say I'm on the phone with them and I know that I want to change this phase to something else. This is exactly the same interface, and then I can use this to change that transaction pipeline phase. So there you have it. Without getting too deep into the weeds on that, that is the transaction pipeline interface and some of the things that you can do with it. Overall, functionally, it's going to be a matter of just adding transactions and then using this edit button to move them through the phases as they move through that whole sales pipeline phase and ultimately close the transaction. So, as always, thanks a lot for joining me. If you have any questions, concerns, comments on this or anything else, feel free to send an email into support@deltagroup.com or give us a call and we can walk you through whatever you'd like. Thanks a lot.